Welcome, folks, to Software Sales Simplified, Move to Success, the podcast for software sales professionals who want to get better. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just getting started out, please join us here every week on our podcast so we can all get better together. So today, ladies and gentlemen, we have a wonderful guest joining us here on the podcast, Anna Hockett. Anna, would you be so kind as to please introduce yourself to everybody who's watching on the podcast today?
I'll keep it short, but hi guys, thanks so much for having me. I was honored to get the call to join you on this newer podcast, and I was super excited to get the new book, which is actually being delivered tomorrow, and I'm going to be out of town. So I'm excited about it. I was fortunate to work with you guys, and I can't wait to have a little conversation here and see what we can do to help other people keep getting better.
Fantastic. I was actually talking with Matt about how you and I got introduced. You were coming on. I was leading the enablement team when you joined us up in the last incarnation that we've all worked together at. We will not name names, but it was a wonderful experience. And I was always taken aback by the energy you brought into the room every time you came in. Anytime that you were coming onto a call, anytime you were coming in to do a presentation, all of us were kind of like, okay, Anna's coming in. This is going to be fun. Everybody kind of like those. And it was a lot of great energy there to come in with. But now you're off someplace else. Tell us a little bit about where you are now.
Yeah, so I'm still selling software. I'm at a software solution company. We sell a great software platform to, it's a little bit more of a niche market as far as we sell to large print service providers or implants at large banks or insurance companies. So it's still in the field of communication. It's just a little bit different. And our software helps simplify the processes within these large organizations. And everybody thinks print is dead. Just a little plug about the industry. But it's actually a $40 billion industry. And it's decreasing slowly, but not even close to the pace that people thought that it was going to start decreasing. And with the increase in email communication, the print actual communication is taken a little bit more seriously and is getting a little bit more of a look these days. So it's been really a really unique experience, but it's been great. If you guys are in the communication space, please let me know and I'll see what I can do to help.
Well, that's fantastic. I've been following your career here for a little while since we've been working together. And, it's interesting you brought up the whole communication thing, because I know that was what your original kind of visions were for your future when you're going to university. Talk a little bit about that. I mean, here you are now, you're the lead revenue person over there. Talk a little bit to us about that. I mean, from communications to seller to now sales leader. That's an interesting journey. What's that been like, and kind of what's been your inspiration along the way?
So it's funny because no one goes to college to get a sales degree, right? And
right.
When you're growing up, at least in my family, my parents are teachers. You don't really know anything about sales in my experience, except for, used car salesmen are like a negative deal. And then I go to school to be a broadcast journalism in the School of Communication was my major. And I thought I was going to do the news, and I was all excited to do that when I got out of college. And then I got a sales assistant job while I was working at the NBC station in Madison, Wisconsin. And I was like, you know what? I might be more cut out for this. And money aside, but money was a little bit of a factor when I was 22 years old, as well as schedule, because I would have had to work, from 1 p.m. till about midnight every day at the news station. I did really find that even though I didn't go to school for this, a lot of the skills that I got from my degree transfer really easily. And Kevin, you and I have talked about it. Like, the art of interviewing it's truly an art. It's not just hey, here's anybody can have a bunch of questions and get some answers. But when you are genuinely curious and want to, whether your goal is to tell their story like it would be if I was doing the news, or if it's to help them solve a problem like I do in my software sales career that's been almost 20 years now, it's truly listening to what people have to say, and then being able to help, or get what you need, whether, like I said, to tell the story or to help provide them with a solution that's going to help whatever it is that they're struggling with.
Now, did you identify that connection between your communication training in university with sales, and did one drive the other? Like, you were like, this is the skill set that I have, so this is something I can do? Or was it more, this is something I'm enjoying doing and I'm really getting some satisfaction out of being able to exercise these skills that way?
It was the second for sure. So I didn't go into it thinking, you know what, I can use all these skills that I acquired in college and whatever. It was more, it was actually, I was working at a bar as I was at the news station. And I was, like I said, I was a sales assistant at a company, but at this bar, I was trying to tell someone that the special that was just unbelievable, because at this restaurant, it was a nice restaurant and bar, and they let us. And again, I was 22 and didn't have any money, like most people don't at 22, and they let us try like all the specialty dishes. And I'm a foodie, even back then I was. So I was trying to sell these people. I'm like, no, you have to order this. It's like literally the best thing you'll ever eat. And like, and they're like, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I work at NBC. And they're like, no, you should be in sales, dude. Like you like, you're getting excited about something that we're doing and it has nothing to do with you. And I'm like, and I didn't get commission on it. It's not like, so that's kind of when I was like, okay, I could do this. And I think that I could get some personal and professional satisfaction out of it. And I'm very grateful that this is the path that I chose.
Well, you started out at selling at the news channel, then at the news station. Is that
No, I was selling for a local company here in Madison. They actually have gotten acquired twice. So they're, but it was like a software platform mixed with a, like some administrative stuff that we would do for large insurance brokers.
Excellent. So were you immediately successful, or did it take a little bit of time to figure out how to get your groove going?
I was fortunate to be successful pretty quickly. I think a little bit of my background as an athlete too. I'm pretty competitive, so I wanted to learn as much as I could about the product that I was selling. And you want to talk about, I mean, people think print is like a boring deal. Employee benefits is like worst. But I realized that if I can connect the things that I'm selling or the things that I'm promoting to things that actually mean a lot to me, so like health and wellness is something that I'm really interested in. If people get good benefits packages, that means it's typically they can either save money as an employer or they're able to provide really good health and wellness care to their employees. So I kind of connected it. And then, yeah, I was super fortunate to have a lot of success. And then I actually got recruited from Weight Watchers International, from this small company, to sell their wellness platforms, which was the first digital or software piece I sold to large companies back when, this was again 16 years ago, when no one even knew what employee wellness meant other than like, oh, we'll give them a gym membership or whatever. So and that brought a ton of fulfillment to me. And I had some incredible success there as well.
So that's an interesting journey to go and take. So here we go. You go from being involved with communications, you think you're to become a newscaster. Now you're selling wellness for Weight Watchers. Natural progression. I see that happening. Yeah.
All the time.
Career counselor must have like drawn that out for you right there in the office, right?
Isn't that too funny? It's hilarious.
Well, I'm finding the journey as a seller has been very circuitous and taking lots of turns and twists along the way. I was telling Kevin on an earlier podcast, I think that, all the SCs I knew coming up, none of them had a tech degree. They were lawyers, they were English majors. I have a fine art degree myself, right? So there's a creativity involved, which is not necessarily about the technology. It's always the application of the technology. And I'm just curious from your perspective, selling different types of products to different individuals or different types of organizations, has that really changed your approach a lot from one to the other?
I don't want to say it hasn't, but it kind of hasn't, because if I can understand what the value what the value of the product or the service that I'm selling is, it's, I don't want to say it's not rocket science, but if there's a need for it in the market, I think that being able to provide someone, and the other thing I will say though, this is the caveat to that. I did work for a company once that I did not believe in whatsoever. And that was probably the most unsuccessful sales position I've ever had in my career. Not probably it was, because I would be nervous if someone said yes and we were filling out the contract, and it just wasn't the right fit for me. It wasn't. But other than that, if typically I try to align myself with companies where I believe in what we're doing in the product, the service, or whatever it might be that I'm bringing to the table. And then from there, it's truly about helping people, like, or helping businesses. Like, one of my biggest things when I was with a company called Doxum, I helped them sell. This is kind of where I started to get involved in more of the print communication space. But again, kind of boring statement processing, like a lot of data, a lot of stuff that I really knew nothing about. And my deal, and I will tell this to everyone to this day, I don't write the code for this. Do I look like someone that knows how to build this stuff? Absolutely not. But I know enough about business strategy and how to grow and how to, whether you're looking to make money or save money, I know how to use different solutions to do that. So I think whether you're trying to get a bunch of employees healthy so that your premiums go down, or you're trying to get as many pieces of mail out the door as you can to get your any of your businesses that are your clients better return on their investment with you, it's still helping them solve critical problems or solve problems. And I think that that's kind of where I've aligned almost every single one that job jump that I've done.
Is your print job now, in terms of the selling, is it highly technical? Are there a lot of systems to integrate with, or things to be compatible with?
It's super, super technical. And the interesting part is that it, just like in any tech space, or everything is changing very, very quickly. And as I mentioned to you guys before we jumped on the actual podcast, there's a lot of historical, like with a lot of the organizations I work with, they've been doing things one way for a very long time. So it's a lot of education involved, as well as kind of slowing down to make sure that the integrations are possible, or that we're ready to integrate, or they don't need to upgrade other systems before we connect into them. Because so there's a little bit of project management involved as well, just because of the amount of connections that need to be made, as well as a lot of the educating that needs to happen.
Do you have an SE that you work with who?
So we're a smaller company, and we're, I don't want to say we're stretched thin by any means, but I will always tell anybody I'm on a demo with that's not my strength. My VP of product is my 100% wing woman, and she is absolutely incredible. It's one of the reasons I got really excited about joining this company, because she's been with the company for 13 years, I believe, and she has worked her way up to become the vice president of product and delivery. And if I'm lucky, I can get her to be my number 2 on demos, so that we can kind of play off each other, because she knows so much about it, and the tech piece of it that I can't. And I'm very honest with people to tell them, hey, I'm not going to be the person that's going to explain all the documentation to you, but I'm going to bring the right people in to make sure that you feel comfortable, because I want that.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it nice when you have someone to kind of work with during the call, go back and forth, have that banter? And that, I always think that projects a really good image and feeling to the customer prospect as well, because they see how you work as a team and they want to be part of that, right? Because it's all about partnership at the end. Right?
Well, and that's where, to Kevin's point, I mean, I hate drilling it down to as small as, the trust and the partnership and the personal thing, but you want, when he was saying that everybody, if, my attitude, or just kind of the general way that I am, my energy, I want people to want to be a part of that, because that's genuinely who I am. And I am excited about what I can bring to the table as far as the products and services that I sell, because I know that it can transform people's businesses. And then if my counterparts at the organization can come and then explain a little bit deeper, then they know that we're all on the same team. And then they get to be a part of it, and then we get to be a part of their success. So maybe that's a selfish thing, but it's really fun when it works out that way.
It's interesting you would bring that up, because I was just thinking and listening to you, being how passionate you've been talking about this industry you're now working with, which is obviously very different than the one that you and I were engaged with before. But there's a common theme, right, about being able to help people and wanting to help solve problems and getting to the root of that. Now, as you had identified earlier on, it's a bit of an older world kind of perspective relative to technology and software. Do you find that sometimes people are a little reticent to open up and share ideas and talk about their problems? And if so, How are you getting around that? And how are you getting them to open up and to earn that trust? Because you want them to partner. How are you doing that?
Absolutely. So I don't want to say that my way is the best way, and it's not the same every single time. I've read all these sales books too that like it gives you this formula, and it would be lovely if that worked every single time, right? But I think for me, I'm not afraid for someone if someone doesn't like me, or if someone doesn't want to tell me what their like business issues are. I'm not going to push, because that typically in my experience, that makes people even more reluctant if I'm pushing to tell me anything about their business, good, bad, or otherwise. Now, for me, I like giving someone the opportunity to tell me a little bit more about themselves and maybe how they got into the industry, how they started their company, how they've had some of the successes that they've had. And I try to really keep up on what's going on in my industry, because if you don't do that, I think you're just missing out in general, because then you're losing a lot of credibility. But I try to keep up with Google alerts. I keep up with a couple print these publications that are available in this industry. So I like to be able to ask them, like, well, what do you think about this merger or this acquisition that just happened? Or tell me, how did you get to this place where you were able to start investing in whatever? And if they don't want to tell me any of their issues, that's fine. There's a lot of other companies out there that will. But I find when you have a genuine conversation of, hey, and it might butter people up a little bit to talk about how great their success has been, or some of the things that they've had successes with. And again, I'm not doing it to be fake. I'm just truly asking, how have you had this success? Because I know other people would probably want to know that. But I think that just getting into a conversation, and it doesn't always have to be like, tell me what keeps you up at night. Because that's going to be the first thing that's going to make someone run the other direction and be like, oh, this is a sales call. I mean, I get these messages, I'm sure you guys do, especially now with the book and everything, on LinkedIn every day, where it's just like, they're kind of like trying to say something relevant, but and I don't even know if it's an AI generated message or what the hell it is. But then it's like they're trying to just pound me with like selling me something. And no one wakes up and says, you know what, I can't wait to spend 200 grand on software tomorrow. Like even businesses that are insanely successful, they want to make sure that they're making an investment in something that makes the most sense for their company, for their family, for whatever it is that they're trying to solve for. And I say family because sometimes when you create efficiencies, people are able to spend more time with their family. They're able to do the things that mean a lot to them. And that's where sometimes I like just getting to know someone, like, what is their deal? Are they trying to just wait till they're retiring in 5 years and just like riding out the last 5 years at this organization? Or are they trying to beat another organization, or trying to, just grow their business a certain amount? Because if they're trying to grow, if someone does share with me that they're trying to grow their business by 10%, they're not telling me there's a problem, but they're telling me that they need to do something, and they're going to have to make some changes in order to do so.
Right. And then getting down to understand what's the benefits and consequences of making or not making that 10%, right?
100%. Like I would say the biggest thing in my current role right now is not like going with a competitor, it's doing nothing. So like being able to articulate and hash through, okay, why do anything? Why do it with us, and why do it now? Those are huge blocks of, hey, like am I dealing with someone who is ready to make a decision or knows that they have an issue? And those are things that I always try to keep in mind when I'm in any type of sales cycle, or even in any like certain conversations.
I wanted to pivot a little bit. I did want to talk a little bit about just women in sales, specifically women in tech sales. Now, I mean, Kevin and I have been doing this 25 plus years, and I've certainly seen a change. There's a lot more women in tech sales, not so many on the SE side still, right? Yep. But a lot more women on tech sales, which makes sense because a lot of people we're selling to are women as well, right? So I'm really happy to see that, and the energy and just the type of conversations that brings. But you said that the current industry you're in is very male dominated. But I'd like to hear your perspective on just being a woman in tech sales and how that's been for you over your career.
So I get this question a lot, and I almost feel bad because I don't have anything other than a lot of times I'm the only woman sitting at a table at a conference or at a round table, or, you know, when I look at my entire network on LinkedIn, I would say there's definitely more men than there are women, but I haven't found any discrimination for sure. So I guess that's where I feel I don't feel bad, but I don't have anything to truly be like, yeah, it's been so hard my whole career. I've been very fortunate I have not felt that. I have, there is this weird thing going on LinkedIn right now where people like think it's some sort of a pickup website, but that's a whole nother story. And that has nothing to do with women in sales. I just think that people think that they should send like dating app type messages to me on LinkedIn, which is just a whole nother conversation. But, in being a woman in sales, I think there's a couple things, and we just did a podcast. One of my colleagues and myself, that we run a podcast called Two Blondes and a Printer, and we talked to an expert in women in the workforce specific to the printing industry, and she's actually she runs this Women in Print Alliance. Lives in DC, and even though I haven't experienced maybe some of this discrimination, it still is massively going on among industries and among promotions and among women. So I guess, and we got into this conversation, and I said, well, there's a couple things that I like to be sure of when we're having that conversation. And one is, I just think, and maybe this is kind of the way that I was raised, I just think the best person should have for the job should get the job, whether you're man, woman, or otherwise. And I guess I never really looked at it as man versus woman. It's just like, I got to be the best that I'm going to be if I want to accomplish the things that I want to accomplish. And then the other thing that I think that, and this can get very interesting, but I think when women want to be in more male-dominated industries, you have to be prepared for what that might mean. Meaning, you could be the only one at a table full of men, a table of 12 men, or even in a room like this conference that I'm going to in a couple of weeks. I think there's 6 women total that are going to be there, other than the spouses that are probably going to jump on the trip because it's in a really nice destination. So you have to make sure that you're comfortable with that, because you can't get where you want to go if you're going to let your own maybe bias get in the way. And that might sound a little harsh, but I think that that's something to keep in mind. And I think that even though there's still a way to go numbers wise and statistically about men versus women, especially in technology, I think that I'm grateful to be in a generation where I have had opportunities to work really hard and see if I can get to the next level, or reach the goals that I've had in my position. And just, I think the other thing is like just having the goods to back it up. Like, if you want to compete with people that have been in this industry maybe a lot longer than you, then you better research and you better have the industry knowledge to make sure that you are on the same playing field. I hope that doesn't come across wrong.
No, I think that's great, because, you said something about, doing your homework and just understanding it. And, and one thing I really liked about sales as well is that at the end of the day, you got a number to meet. And if you're making that number, you get acknowledged for that. Right. And I think so that on some levels, that's a common, way to make everyone the same, because you're all kind of on the same platform there.
And that's where I think in sales, maybe that's where I've been so fortunate to never. It's either like you're getting your job done or you're not. I will say this though, this is something that I've talked to a lot of folks about, and this is finding good mentors, and or allies within either the organizations you're working with, or people that you maybe like. One of my clients from years and years ago is still probably one of my biggest mentors as it comes to being a woman in business in general, because she is such a badass. And I just said to her, and I guess I don't have shame on this front, is like, I said, hey, can we touch base like once a year, once every 6 months? And she was like, I would absolutely love that, because she feels like she's giving back, and she's given me a lot of information and a lot of just great guidance through a lot of my career. And whether it's a man or a woman, I think that having the right my old tennis coach used to call it, like, have your bench. Like, you got to have the right bench of people, or board of directors is another word I've heard some of my other friends say, like, because then those are the people that you lean on when times might get tough, or you feel a little bit like, maybe like you're on an island where there's all these other things going on, or all these other genders there beside, and you might feel a little alone.
That's an interesting perspective. You're talking about mentorship. I know that at the last iteration that you and I were working at, you were involved with a number of different initiatives around women in sales there. Have those types of initiatives given you the opportunity to act as the mentor, or to be able to connect people so that mentorships can flourish?
100%. Yeah. And I would say that that's something that makes me, it's given me so much fulfillment in my career, and honestly in my life. I mean, because I was an athlete, but I never really wanted to be a coach. I think that being able to help people through certain work stresses, or, even things like this, like, I was the only chick in the room. Okay, well, like, what does that mean? I think that it's personally, and maybe selfishly, it does bring me a lot of fulfillment. And I've been very grateful for literally all of my different connections that I've made through the different companies that I've been at throughout my career.
So of all those different initiatives that you've been involved with, if there's one you could pick out that was probably the most fruitful, what was that one?
Well, the one at our former company was, it was nice because it was so like adopted by the company. So it wasn't just a couple people coming up with something and then just kind of like sending one-off emails. It was very adopted by the company. And I would say that is one huge positive that I've learned at working at an organization of that size, because, like, we had panels, we had events. It was a really, really nice, like I said, company adopted initiative. At where I'm at right now, there's a couple different groups that we're involved with as a company, but they're outside of our company. And they do a really nice job. They get great speakers. The only big complaint, and I told the gal this on the last podcast, is we had a huge conference in Vegas, and the Women in Print Alliance luncheon sold out within 2 seconds. Like, we couldn't get into it. And it was like standing room only for this. So they're doing really, really cool things. A lot of innovation, a lot of really, really interesting stats that we could probably do an entire podcast just on women in tech sales in general, because some of the stats are mind blowing. And some of the takeaways as far as like what works and what doesn't work for all of DEI is really, really groundbreaking with some of these studies that they've done.
You've talked a couple of times now about your podcast, and I'm just curious, what kind of led you to think about starting that podcast? What was kind of the genesis of that?
Yeah. So my coworker and I, we both happen to be, and this has nothing to do with the podcast. I just have to set the stage if people never listen or whatever. But like, so we meet each other for the first time. We're both 5'10" blondes, and we're working in a space that's very male dominated. And we were, and this is a good thing that I'm not at an office, you guys, because we were at our headquarters in Atlanta, and there's ping pong, there's pop shot basketball, there's like all these distractions, and I'm just goofing off all day, right? And I had just gotten a job, and I'm like, running the ping pong table, and I'm like, this is why I can't be in an office setting, because all I will do is mess around all day long, especially if there's other people that are willing. And then there's a huge kitchen, there's tons of food, and we have tons of international people that work at my company. So it's really cool. There's like, doesn't matter. Either way, Caitlin and I, we're like, oh my God, we should almost start a podcast. And I was telling her how I really like this specific one that I listened to with Aaron Andrews and Cressa Thompson. And she was like, and then we were like, what should we call it? And then I'm like, if we're going to do it, I think we should just lean in to the fact that we don't look like most people in this industry, but yet we've both found it pretty fascinating, and there's really cool parts about it. So our big question is, that we ask all of our guests at the end of the podcast, is, what is the sexy side of print? Some people might find it offensive. I feel bad for that, but like, it's our deals, and we've like, and we've gotten some of the coolest answers and really really great guests, whether they're in full-blown technology or they're in print or they're lobbyists in DC. Like there's really, it's been super fulfilling, and it's been a great way, to be honest, to get in touch with people that want to work with us. So if you guys want to listen, it's on both Spotify as well as YouTube, and it's called Two Blondes and a Printer. And it's my podcast with my co-host Caitlin Shanks.
Well, anything you'd like to go and ask Matt or I about at this point, or what?
Of course, yeah, we're waiting to like get into it with you guys a little bit. So, I know a little bit about what you're doing now. I just kind of want to hear like where's the urge, or what's the purpose in what you guys are doing now, and how's it been so far? I mean, it's scary. I can't imagine doing what you guys are doing, but I'm in awe of it, and I'm actually inspired by it. So give it to me. What's the
Matt,
what's
do you
the driving
want to go
force
first?
here?
Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. Well, part of this is just, it's a progression over the years, right? We've both been in this industry about 25 years, and I had a career before that as well. I ran all the computer operations of the Ninth Circuit Courts. I had a computer consultancy in Washington, D.C. So I had many lives before this. But this was kind of coming to its natural close. I feel like just being here for so long, not only my salary requirements, but just the experience I had, it was hard to find roles where I could really utilize my experience effectively.
Right.
Right. It would always start like, yes, we're going to have you plugged in here and you're going to lead this team, et cetera. But after a while, it didn't quite fit in with the natural way they wanted to grow organizations. And so I could just see the writing was on the wall. Like I kind of hit the ceiling in terms of what I could do here. And I think Kevin, I won't speak for him, but it had a similar kind of epiphany himself, right? And so what it came down to is like, what would be the best way for us to share all of our experience and our success that we've had over the years in a way that would have the most impact? And we figured just starting our own consulting firm, right? And being able to provide classes, instruction, mentorship, assessments, all these types of things that we do, that we have been doing over the years, is kind of a way to go. So the exciting thing about it for me is not just, the consulting gigs we get, right, which working with people, which is always exciting, but also the alternate channels that we have to convey information and communicate with people. So the book obviously was a huge milestone for us, getting that out.
And congratulations, you guys. That's so awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it was no small feat, but getting it out there is a great way to take our knowledge and just kind of organize it in a way, because that's the problem too, is you have so much information and so many ideas, but can you actually distill it down in a way that could be useful for people that they can grasp quickly?
Right.
That's one. Online training is another one. The podcast is another one that's coming out. So all of these are different modes of communication, different channels of getting our message out and connecting with people. So that's been the most exciting thing for me. And I think the one thing that's keeping us on this journey. But Kevin, what about you?
No, you're spot on with everything you said. I'd say, so Anna, you and I met when I was running enablement. So when I was going through that process of leading enablement, I found it incredibly fulfilling, and just really kind of affirmed that the path that Matt and I are on right now was something I wanted to do, because even within the context of doing that within a corporation, you're stuck within the four walls that they want you to operate in.
Of course.
And there was more I wanted to share. There was more I wanted to teach. And it was a bit limiting from that perspective. And there were stories that I wanted to tell and skills I wanted to impart with people that was like, well, that's great, but we don't need them to know that right now. We need to, so I found it frustrating because I felt like in some cases I was delivering half measures. And one of the things I learned is went from being an individual contributor to leading teams. The development of people and development of their skills and making them more successful is the thing that I found so satisfying about being a leader. Yeah. And that's why I wanted to continue to pursue that. And, Matt and I, when we were let go back in January, so literally a year ago from where we are standing today, we both looked at it and we went, let's go do this because we knew there was a need in the marketplace. People were reaching out to us with their frustrations and both from a leadership and an individual contributor perspective.
Right.
And we just knew that this was out there. We feel that it is an underserved aspect of the sales community that we can help and we can enable. And it's been deeply satisfying, a lot of work,
Of course.
and not more than 1 or 2 sleepless nights, as you could probably well imagine.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like scary. Like,
But
I have to,
go ahead.
I just have to share this before we wrap up. Because since I was part of one of your sales training and enablement groups, and for anybody that wouldn't and probably wouldn't know this, so we had like a Game of Thrones. Was it Game of Thrones or no?
It was the Hunger Games.
Hunger Games. There was
Yes.
like a Hunger Games theme, and anyone that knows me knows that like those types of movies aren't really my deal. Okay, like, however, I've now seen all of the Hunger Games movies, and we got these. I still have it on my work bag, Kevin. We got these pins at the end because you guys, it was a tough, like it was a big sales training and a big, intense competitive cohort situation. And getting these pins at the end, I know 2 other reps still have the pins too. So I just had to share that with you. So I think about you every time I get on a plane for a work trip because that's on my work bag. And that's where I guess to jump in and interrupt both of you, I'll just say that if anyone should be doing what you're doing, it's you two. And I'm so grateful that that my path crossed with you guys, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for all of you.
I am literally blushing. But I deeply appreciate that, Anna. And you know what? I still have my pins over here on my desk. And every once in a while, I was going to wear it when we got onto the call today, but I figured it would be too much of a call out if I was wearing it.
I was going to wear it, but I'm like, it doesn't go. Like, it's not my deal. Plus, the fact that it's on my work bag is a bigger deal because I get to look down and remember that I got through all that. And I mean, my partner and I did really, really well in the whole competition aspect of it.
You did indeed.
So. You
did indeed. And I remember one of the things we wanted people to learn when we came through is it wasn't about survival of the fittest. It was all about making each other better and making each other successful. And that's the thing we wanted people to understand, because this industry we're in, it's tough and it can break you down. And being able to reach out to other people that can help you with circumstances, help you with their learning, their knowledge, their experiences, that's what we wanted everyone to come away with, because that's how the people who win at the Hunger Games actually win, is by partnering.
Well, we're still on group text. A bunch of us are. So just know that you didn't fall on deaf ears. And if anything, it was inspiring. So
we'll tell them all.
I'm excited for you guys. This is great.
Well, thank you. Well, folks, I would love to keep going. And if we were allowed to, I'm sure we would be talking for the next hour and a half easily with Anna. But unfortunately, we do need to bring this episode to a close. Anna, tell everybody again where they can come and listen to your podcast. So give it a completely unbiased plug.
A shameless plug. Okay, guys. So 2 blondes and a printer, and it's available on Spotify and YouTube. Listen in. Even if you're not in the print world, we talk about business strategy. We even compare sales to dating, which is one of my favorite episodes. So enjoy. Thank you so much, and hope you like it.
Well, with that being said, folks, we hope that you enjoyed this episode. Please, if you have ideas about things you want to hear, there's folks you want us to try and bring on the show, please go and give us comments. Reach out to us on the website. Let us know what you think. And wherever you're listening to us, please like, follow, subscribe, whatever is appropriate for the particular channel that you're listening to us on. And we'd love to see you guys back here next week. Anna, thank you so much for coming in. It's been so much fun.
Yeah, it's been really fun. Thanks,
Thank
Anna.
you both so much.
And best of luck to you at the conference next week. I hope things go well for you.
Thank you. I do too.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to a wrap here. So our little closing comments. Thank you for being in here on the Software Sales Simplified, Move to Success. This podcast is produced by and the sole property of Strategic Sales Optimization, LLC, copyright 2025. Reproduction or use of this broadcast in any part without the written express permission of Strategic Sales Optimization, LLC is strictly prohibited. All rights reserved. And until then, folks, we'll see you next time. Take care.